Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Thursday. And this is our last regular video today, or really for the year, forever. I don't know. Hopefully, you were able to tune in yesterday and do a practice exam with me, a timed practice exam. My name is Mindy Foote. I'm an AP Music Theory teacher from Valencia High School in Placentia, California. And today, our goals are to go over that AP exam that you took yesterday. And we're going to do some just last minute reminders about the exam day procedures. And then we have a special guest video at the end of our session today from the world renowned Kristin Chenoweth. I'm really excited for you guys. She actually reached out to us and just wanted to give all of her music theory people best wishes for our AP exam that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Okay. And then we have actually another guest that will be joining Dr. Eater and I tomorrow. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Okay, so let's dive right in. Again, if you haven't watched the video from yesterday yet, you probably should do that before you watch today's video. You had your answer sheet, and all of these documents, including the test questions, are found on that tiny URL that's on your screen right now. So just a reminder that you need to have this answer sheet prepped ahead of time. So, you presumably used one up yesterday when you took the practice test. You need to print a new one and maybe have a backup or two ready to go for the actual exam day. Just a reminder, I showed this to you yesterday. There's some parts that you have to fill in before the test actually even starts. And then once the question appears on the screen, some things that you fill in. And I'm going to show you my practice test that I did yesterday right now. So again, before the whole thing started, I have no idea what the APID numbers look like. I think they're like letters and numbers, but ABC 123 is obviously made up there. And a note about taking a picture of your answer sheet. Okay. Now, you're obviously not going to take a picture of it at this stage of the game. You're going to wait until it's all said and done. But it's really important that you note the file types. And it's been brought to our attention recently that iPhones and Apple products have this HEIC file type, and that is not one of the acceptable formats that the system will allow for the picture upload. So if you have an Apple device that you're planning on using for the exam day, I've included some information here on the screen for how you can deal with that. Just another couple of tips that I ran into myself yesterday. One of the things that it said was to have the students email it to themselves, and the attached image will automatically be converted to a JPEG. I took the picture. I use an iPhone myself, and I decided I was just going to upload it to my Google Drive. And when I upload it to my Google Drive, it keeps the HEIC file format. You actually have to email it to yourself. Now, once you have it in your Google Drive, I can change the file type from there, but it really, the moral of the story here is you have to practice ahead of time. And I know many of you are young tech savvy people, and you're going to figure out a way for it to work. You just don't want to be doing that the day of. The other thing that I want to point out to you, this isn't on the screen, but another thing I thought of was PNG is an acceptable file type, and those generally happen by you taking a screenshot of your phone. It is a PNG file, so you could take a screenshot of your photo. But again, play around with it, have a plan, confirm what kind of file does your phone or your computer or your Chromebook or whatever you're using to take the exam, what does that photo default to? Okay. So this was the question that I gave you yesterday from the 2020 sample released questions. And just as a reminder, I also gave you an alternate if this was an assignment that you had already done with your AP Music Theory teacher. And those files will stay up on that tiny URL for hopefully a few weeks at least. So for example, next week when our AP exams start, we will no longer be doing these live YouTube videos. And at that point in time, you'll just be practicing on your own, hopefully continuing to study because the AP Music Theory test isn't until the following week. So we've got this like gap week where maybe you're taking other AP exams or maybe you're just kind of sitting around. And there are lots of options out there. And again, go to that tiny URL and you can do the alternate sample and find those answers online. Okay. So I wanted to show you a picture of what my paper looked like after, again, pretending like I was taking the exam yesterday after I filled in all of the red part. So this is the instructions I wrote over here is copy when the question appears on your screen. And then you can see the, key signature, the baseline, the figured base symbols, and so on. And I even timed myself. I wasn't trying to like work really fast because if I make a copy error, that will affect my score. But I also was, trying to move along quickly because I don't want to eat into my 25-minute work time. And it took me approximately 1 minute and 45 seconds to go through and copy down the information from both question one, part A and question one, part B. So we have 25 minutes to work on these two problems together. Although that 1 minute and 45 seconds does use up some of that time, keep in mind that question one, part B does not have a secondary dominant as it normally would in a different year. So that kind of helps us to save a little bit of time because that question is a little bit easier now without the secondary dominant. Okay. So then this is what my paper looked like when I was ready to kind of set my devices off to the side and then dive in with my pencil. So I'm going to do that live in front of you now this morning with my what is this, Surface Pro and my stylus. Just a reminder that for the actual exam, it does have to be truly handwritten with a paper and pencil. You may not do what I'm about to do for this YouTube video and use a digital stylus, okay? It does have to be absolutely handwritten. So, oh, I know one more thing I was going to show you. Remember that because it's open book, open note this year, if you want to, you can have some prepped note cards or chord matrices already pre-made ahead of time, and that will help save you some time in that 25-minute work time. So for example, by the way, somebody asked me recently, oh, can you send me maybe a copy of all of these note cards that you've made? Like, I haven't made all the note cards yet. I only make the note cards like as I go, what I need for this next video. And you can see this poor note card has seen better days when I was searching through my school supplies last night working on this problem. So yes, you're on your own. You got to make your own note cards. Or like I said, if you prefer to use a chord matrix like what Dr. Eater does, you could have those prepped already beforehand. Okay. So I'm going to be referencing that as I work today right now with you. So we are in the key of D minor, one flat, and I know that the leading tone is going to be a C sharp. I can see that very clearly in the second chord there. But first, before I move on, I'm going to put in my one chord. Oh, red is not the color I was expecting. I'm going to go ahead and change that to black. Okay, so don't forget to fill in the Roman numeral for the first chord, even though the soprano, alto, tenor, bass part are already given to you there. So our next chord, this C sharp with the 7 below it, the 7 tells me that it's in root position. So this is going to be a 7 chord. And in minor keys, because of that raised leading tone, it's going to be diminished. So my note names down here would be C sharp, E, G, B flat because the key signature. So even though I have those things like already spelled out on my note card over here, personally, I still like writing them on my paper too. It's up to you though. If you don't want to do that to help save time, that's fine. Okay. It's not a big deal. All right, my voicing up here, of course, we already have the C sharp and the bass. I'm looking for common notes, seeing where all of the voices are coming from. That's not helpful. So now my tenor could go up to a B flat or could go down to a G. So I'm going to skip that guy. My alto F could go up to a G or down to an E. Both of those would be nice. And my soprano is on a D. Let's see. We don't want her to go to a B flat. G would be too far away too. I feel like the soprano has to go to an E. So that kind of eliminates some of the choices from earlier. Now, going back to my alto, she can be either a G or a B flat. I'm going to have her be on a G because that's closer. Notice the soprano and alto are parallels, but they're parallel sixths, and that's fine. And then by process of elimination, that would leave the tenor at a B flat. And again, I don't love all of this parallel motion here, but if I count from the tenor to the alto, A, B, C, D, E, F, that's a sixth, not a problem. And from the tenor to the soprano, A, B, a, B, C, D, that's a fourth, not a problem either. We're looking for parallel fifths and parallel octaves. Okay, next we come to a D with nothing underneath it. So that would be a root position 1 chord, D, F, A. And I'm going to go back to my diminished 7 chord and resolve my tendency tones first. The leading tone is the C sharp, and that has to go to D. And because that's in the bass, it's already done, no problem. Then we have our 7th. The chordal 7th is the B flat. That has to go down to an A. So fill that guy in next. And now I need an F. Actually, you know what? Do you see we're coming from a 1 chord? We're going away from the 1 chord and then we're just going right back to the 1 chord. So why not have everybody just go back to the note that they were on in the 1st chord? Remember that phrase borect that I like to use. It's boring, but correct. All right, next chord. The 4-2 indicates third inversion for a 7th chord. So this G is actually the 7th, and we have to find the root. One way of doing that would be to look at your note card, and I can see that would be a 5-7 chord. Because the inversion down here, I'm actually going to write 5-4-2, but you really don't have to include those figured bass symbols next to your Roman numeral because they were given to you. So if all you do is write a 5, that's fine. My students I know are in the habit of writing the full 5-4-2. Okay, so my note names down here would be A, C, sharp, yes, C sharp, E, G. The way I know it's a C sharp, 2 ways. First of all, when we're in a minor key, that's just how it generally is. But look at that sharp in front of the figured bass 4 right there. If I count from G, G, A, B, C, then they're telling me to raise the 4th note above that G, which is the C, okay? That makes our 5 chord a major 5 and not a minor 5. So let's see where everybody wants to go. We already have a G in the bass. The tenor is on an A right now, and I need an A, so I'm going to have him stay on an A. That would be nice and boring. I know it's always weird when you have seconds. And in this case, what I do is I put the higher note in front, so then the stems actually line up on top of each other. Technically they should be actually touching each other, but it's a little hard to do with my stylus sometimes. Let's see, we've got our A, then we need a C sharp and an E. This D could go to either note nicely, I feel like. The F to get to a C sharp would be a leap, and I don't want to do that. That would be an awkward leap. So I'm going to have the F go to an E, and then I'm going to have the D go to a C sharp. Also, I know this might seem really basic to some of you, but I still see students who do this occasionally. Remember, when we speak, we say C sharp. But when we notate it on the music, the accidental has to go in front of the note. This is really important. If you have a brain fart moment and you put the sharp behind the C, disaster. That's not allowed. And that's going to lead to like a triangle of death. Okay. So again, I know some of you are rolling your eyes and you're like, come on, Mrs. Foot. I wouldn't mess that up. You'd be surprised. Okay. So the accidental goes in front of the note, even though we say C sharp, it looks on our music like sharp C. Okay. Next we have our F, and because of the 6 down here, that indicates that it is first inversion. You can use your note card to help you out. This is going to be a 1/6 chord. D, F, A. So back to my 5/4/2 chord. I have some tendency tones. I have the leading tone, C sharp, has to go up to D, tonic. Then we have our chordal 7th, which is G, has to go down to F. And because it's in the bass, it's already done for me. Easy. So where do we ever want everybody else to go? Let's see. I need an A. Well, look at that tenor. He's already on an A. We'll have him stay on an A. Lovely. And then in terms of doubling here, let's talk about this. You have 2 choices. When in doubt, double the root of the chord. And so even though this is in first inversion, we could have another D. The alto is currently on an E, and I am going to do that. I'm going to have her go down to a D. Because this is a first inversion chord, though, it is also very common to double the third, and that would be an F, and then this E could go up to an F. Both are equally acceptable, okay? So we get to be composers and make some choices. All right, next we have 6/5. 6/5 indicates first inversion, 7th chord. So this G would be the third of the chord. Looking at my note card, if you need to, this is going to be one of those ugly ones. It's going to be a 2 half diminished 6/5. I say ugly just because I know sometimes the half diminished can be a little intimidating. Just a reminder that that's what's normal. That's what's diatonic when we're in a minor key. If our 2 chord has a 7th, then it will just naturally be 2 half diminished 6/5. So that's when the chord matrix or the note card can really help save you when you're nervous on the day of the exam. Okay, so let's see. Our note names would be E, G, B flat because of the key signature, D. We have a G in the bass already. That's given. Let's see. We have a D already up in, well, for me, I have it in 2 places, the soprano and the alto. And I'm thinking one of those Ds will stay as a D and one of those Ds needs to move to an E. Now let's make good choices here. For example, if I have the soprano go up to an E and the alto stays on a D, that's going to be more than an octave apart. And I would get points taken off because of bad spacing. So instead, I'm going to have the soprano stay on the D and I'm going to have the alto go up to the G, closing that gap a little bit. Notice in this prior chord where they're actually an octave apart, that's fine. It just can't be more than an octave apart. So what does that leave me with for my tenor? A B flat. Perfect. I'm on an A beforehand, and that would be nice. Smooth voice leading. Again, checking for parallels. I see parallel motion down here, but those are parallel thirds. When I check the interval with the alto, F, G, A, B, C, D, that's a 6th. The tenor to alto, A, B, C, D, that's a 4th, not a problem. Okay, home stretch here, last chord. The little sharp underneath our last note just indicates to raise the third of the chord. It doesn't tell me anything about the inversion. So this would be a root position. And A in the key of D, this would be a 5 chord. So this would be a C sharp, E. Making this, by the way, a half cadence, which doesn't have to be marked on your music, but just FYI. So going back to my 2 half diminished 6/5, let's resolve our tendency tones. There's no leading tone to worry about, but I do have a chordal 7th. The chordal 7th is the D, and we want the 7th to go down. So in this case, it would go down to the C sharp. Notice also that the rhythm of my last chord is a half note because we're in 4/4 and we want to make sure that the all of the beats are used up, right? Okay, so let's see. We have an A in the bass. We need an E. Look at the alto is already on an E, so we'll have her stay on an E. And then how about let's just double the root? We'll have the tenor and the bass come together to that same note, which means I just have one note head and two stems to it. Okay. All right. You have, what is it, 25 minutes altogether, right, to do part 1A and 1B, but I would recommend that you spend about, or I would say no more than 15 minutes on this guy, okay? And then, oh, I wanted to show you, here's another option of what yours might look like at the end. This is if you don't have a printer at home and you need to handwrite out the staff. Of course, you would do that part before the test started. But I also wanted to point out to you this chord right here. Do you see her 1/6? Whoever did this problem chose to double the third of the chord instead of the root. So her voice leading is a little bit different than mine, which is just a good reminder that there's not one answer on these problems. You can make different choices than I do on this video, and it's possible that both of us are right. Another thing that you can see here is, do you see that she just puts the Roman numeral and does not bring the figured bass symbols down? That's like the bare minimum requirement. Okay, so if that's what you're used to doing in your own classroom, then by all means you can continue to do that. Okay. All right, let's dive into question 1B now. We're given the Roman numerals, so this is what my answer sheet would start with. I've already copied it down to help save time right now. If you want to, you would, presumably you would have like a whole stack of these note cards because we don't know what the key signature is going to be on the day of the exam. And then you just like look through and you pull out your one for B flat major and you're like, okay, here we go, I'm ready to go. And well, we are ready to go. Let's do this. We have a B flat, two B flats, a D, and an F. Obviously, a one chord. Now we're working from the Roman numerals, so you either look at your note card or you do lots of counting on your fingers. B, C, D, E, E flat, G, B flat. It's in root position, so I'm going to put in my bass line first. We'll have the bass go up to the E flat because we want it to be in his vocal register. That low E flat would be too low for him. The tenor is already on a B flat. We'll have him stay on a B flat because that would be boring. And we need a G. How about the soprano going up to the G? And then when in doubt, double the root. So how about we have the alto go up to an E flat, and we have parallel thirds in the soprano and alto, no problem. The tenor is just static and the bass is leaping, so no parallels there. All right, 5/4/2. If we count from B flat, B, C, D, E, F, our 5 chord would be F, A, C, and the 4/2 indicates that we want the 7th on there, which would be our E flat. In fact, the 4/2 indicates that we want it to be in third inversion, so that E flat is going to be in the bass. Notice that you don't have to put the flat in front of the E when I'm writing the note because it's part of the key signature. Okay, we only need accidentals when we're in that minor key and we're raising the leading tone. Okay, so where do we want everybody to go? Let's have the soprano. I guess I'm going to have her go down to an F. And then the alto can leap down to a C. And then the tenor could go down to an A. Now, again, this is not the only option. The other thing that I was thinking about doing was having the G go up to an A, the E could go up to an F then, and the B flat could go up to a C. So everybody would just go up a step. I don't love all of that parallel motion, but it's going to work out with parallel thirds and parallel six. So that's an option for you if you don't want to do the voice leading that I just gave. Okay, our 1/6 chord. B flat, D, F. I'm going to put in the bass first because remember, we don't get to choose the bass line. It tells us based on the inversion that I want it to be first inversion. That would be a D down here. Okay, now back to the 542. We have some tendency tones. And by the way, when I make my note card, let me skip to my note card here. Do you see I circle the leading tone? I know those have to be resolved. Maybe what you want to do also is circle these sevenths. If you have a seventh, it will probably be on a two, a five, or a seven chord, um, because those sevenths are tendency tones and they have to resolve a certain way. Excuse me. So in my 542 right here, my leading tone is the A and it's in an inner voice. So technically it doesn't have to resolve, but I would prefer not to have a frustrated leading tone. So I am going to resolve the A up to a B flat. And my seventh is, oh, it's in the bass because we're in third inversion. So the E flat is already properly going down to the D. I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we could have the soprano stay on an F. And then how about double the, well, here's a first inversion primary triad again. So we have two choices. We could double the root of the chord. I could have the alto go down to a B flat. Notice the tenor's also on a B flat, but that's fine if they share that note, even though they're in two different staves, treble and bass clef. We would they would be singing the same actual pitch, or we could have the alto go up to a D and we would be doubling the third. I'm going to go ahead and do that this time. How about just to mix it up? Okay, so we have two thirds, but that's fine, especially because it's in first inversion. All right, 265 in the key of B flat. Our two chord would be C, E flat, G, and the 6-5 indicates that we do want the seventh, so that would be our B flat. 6-5 indicates first inversion, so remember we have all of our inversion symbols would be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 2. So in this case, E flat is going to be my bass. And we don't have any tendency tones in the one chord, so we just want to have nice smooth voice leading. Let's have the soprano, how about go up to a G, because that's a close by note. I'm going to have the tenor stay on a B flat. And then how about the alto could go down to a C. Okay. Our 5 chord, F, A, C. Notice that it does not have a seventh. Don't just automatically put sevenths on all of your fives, just FAC this time. And root position tells me that we want the bass to be on an F. We need to resolve our seventh in the 265 chord. So the B flat, which happens to be in the tenor for me, needs to go down to an A. And let's see, what else do I need? I need a C. The alto is already on a C, so we'll have her stay. And then how about have the soprano go down to an F? All right, lastly, we have our 6th chord, making this a deceptive cadence. That would be G, B flat, D, and we're going to make this a half note so that it fills the whole measure. Root position G, we're going to have the bass go up pretty high here. That's fine. We don't want to have him leap down a seventh at this point in time. That would be awkward to sing. We need to resolve our tendency tones in the 5 chord. We have our leading tone, which is A. No, our leading tone is, well, yeah, our leading tone is A. So because it's an inner voice, I guess this is where I hesitate. This doesn't have to resolve. Remember, that's a frustrated leading tone, especially with the deceptive cadence. It wouldn't be that unusual if, for example, we wanted the A to go down to the G and we would have two roots in that chord. If you want to have him go up to the B flat, then that resolves the leading tone and we have parallel thirds. So actually, that's not a bad call. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I need a D. We could have the soprano go up to the D. How about? Well, that would give us parallels. So I lied. We cannot have, or sorry, the alto go up to the D. Do you see the bass and the alto? F, G, A, B, C are 5th apart. If I have the alto go to a D, then we would have G to D, and that would be a fifth also. I think I warned you about this in the video yesterday. When you have a root position 5 to a root position 6, parallel fifths and octaves are very, they happen unless you're careful. So how about, actually, do you see that? I'm going to keep that D. I want to go ahead and keep the fifth in it, but I'm going to put the stem going up. So it's my soprano note. And therefore, where do I want that C to go? It can't go to a D. We'll have the soprano or the alto, I think I called it the soprano just now, we'll have her go down to the B flat. So actually, I'm doubling the third of the chord here, which normally we would double the root. And maybe what you want to do instead is have those two G's, but then you have a frustrated leading tone. So music theory is all about choices. Sometimes we have to pick the best of what we can do with our voice leading here. So in this case, I think I'm going to go with this. But like I said, I'm actually looking at my paper from last night here. I'll show you. Um, when I did this last night, I can see I actually made a different choice. I had the A go down to a G. So it really just depends on what compositional mood I'm in, I suppose. Um, Here is another option for you. Remember, I'm always worried about my students at home who are maybe watching and seeing that they did something different than me and then thinking that they're wrong. Just because you did something different than me, it could be, well, it could be that you're wrong, but it could be that your choice is just different than mine, and it's okay. So for example, let's see, where did we diverge from each other? In the third chord, you can see the choice that I made was to have the soprano and alto go down from the 4 to the 5-4-2 chord. But do you see the person who did this one had the soprano and the alto go up from the 4 to the 5-4-2 chord? And therefore, once those, once it's like butterfly effect, right? Once you make changes here, then everything else after that is going to be different than mine. Notice at the end of hers with the deceptive cadence here, she has to resolve her leading tone because the A is in the soprano. If your leading tone is in an outer voice, which means soprano or bass, you are not allowed to have a frustrated leading tone. It has to resolve. But if it's in an inner voice, which is the alto or the tenor, then you have more options. So notice that in her sixth chord, she also has two thirds and only one root to make sure that that leading tone was resolved. Okay, one more thing that I want to mention is that now you're like done. Oh, and by the way, in terms of timing, then if we spent 15 minutes on the other one, we would hopefully spend no more than 10 minutes doing this guy, right? And you really have to be careful watching that time. It's better to send in a imperfect or even incomplete answer than no answer at all. So if you see that timer turn red and you have 5 minutes left, you really need to just set down your pencil and start taking a picture. Even if you're like, gosh, I have parallels at the end, I didn't have a chance to finish, or, I didn't even finish the last question at all, submit your response so that you can at least earn some points. Some points are better than no points. So again, at this point in time, last night when I was doing this, I picked up my phone, and we do want to make sure that the entire page is in our photo at once. So that would be portrait, uh, long way this way. We don't want it to be in landscape. And we also don't want to take individual pictures of question 1A and question 1B. We can only upload one picture. So it does have to be the full, like 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Also, big news. This was new information that I just found out. One of my students asked me about this yesterday on our Zoom meeting. If we have a scanner, can we scan our paper? And I said, well, I wouldn't recommend that because then it's going to be, your scanner probably will have it be a PDF form. And then it was like, oh my gosh, this just came across my email this morning. You actually can submit a PDF for question 1. However, look at this note. In that case, the PDF is going to be a text file, not a photo. So on your upload screen, there will be an option to attach a text file or to attach a photo. So just be, again, practicing and thinking about what's going to work best for you. Um, and if you're using a scanner, for example, instead of your camera, the PDF is actually okay. So that was interesting information to me. All right, question 2. Are you ready to sight sing? A couple things that I want to point out to you just as reminders. Hopefully, you already know this, that you may transpose the melody to whatever starting pitch is comfortable for your vocal range. And you are allowed to play the starting pitch. If that starting pitch is on your actual recording, that's fine. You can use a musical instrument to, help prep, but not during your performance. However, if they hear, and then you start singing, that's fine. That's fine. Um, you may pause your recording after stating your APID number. In fact, you should, right? And then in between the first and second melody, but do not pause in the middle of your melody. And certainly when you're done recording it, you are not allowed to edit your audio file in any way. So be careful, especially if you're using a computer program like Audacity that has a lot of editing capabilities that we don't want to manipulate our file at all. And yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more. So if I were doing the real actual test, I would turn on my phone and I would hit my voice memos app. And remember, on if you're using an Apple product, at first you just see the record button. I'm going to hit record. My AP number is ABC123. And then I have to swipe up and like hit on that black part to see the full voice controls. And then I'm going to push pause. Now I'm going to practice the melody. So let's see that melody from yesterday. I personally prefer to use scale degree numbers. Some people have asked me about what about writing in numbers on the music if this is just going to be displayed on my screen and I won't have physical music in front of me. Well, one option is that you could have a piece of staff paper handy and you could jot down the melody real quick. I am a little bit worried that that would be time consuming though. So another option would be to just jot down the number part, right, or your solfege syllables on a piece of scratch paper. And I'm sure that you will be clever and make it work. Okay, so I have the luxury of putting these numbers on my screen here. I know you won't have that luxury on the test. All right, this is the key that it's written in. I'm going to start by playing it on the piano and kind of humming or singing along as I play. Notice we're in E major and this is 6/8. How about we just warm up our voice real quick with a quick 5-note scale. 1, 2, 3. Oh, so sorry. I think I said E major. We are in E minor, friends. This is sad. Put on your eyebrows for sad songs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1. Right? I'm not practicing the notes that are on the screen. I'm just kind of getting my voice awake and alive. So in 6/8, this might sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 7, 1. Remember scale degree, friends. The word 7 has 2 syllables. We want to chop it so it's just one syllable. And of course, you're welcome to use solfege or just a neutral syllable like la or ta. When I've practiced, maybe I'm going to go back through and I'm going to isolate any of the tricky rhythms, make sure I'm good with that dotted rhythm in measure 2 and measure 4. Da, 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 da. Maybe I'm going to practice, I don't know, this one's pretty conjunct here. The second phrase, those leaps are a little tricky. 5, 1, 3, 2, 4. Do it again. 5, 1, 3, 2, 4. 5, 1, 3, 2, 4. Because repetition is what's going to help us feel more confident when we're ready to record. All right, I'm ready to record. So I'm going to go back to my phone and I'm going to hit resume to record. If you'd like to give yourself a starting pitch again, you can, but then make sure that you don't play while you sing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 7, 1. Then I push pause on my phone again, and I'm ready to practice melody number 2. Melody number 2 is in bass clef, B flat major, but we've got a chromatic pitch in the second measure. We also have some tricky rhythms. So let's not worry about the rhythm so much. Let's just look at the pitches for a second. I'm going to be singing it up here, but it's written down here. 1, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 7, 1. Again, notice that I'm just practicing. I'm not thinking about rhythm. Second measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those of you using solfege. Do, re, mi, fi, sol instead of fa. Where are we? Pick up into the second phrase. 7, 1, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. It's a very common ending for our sightseeing. So hopefully that's one that you've practiced already. Let's look at the rhythm here. This third beat, dotted eighth, 16th. That goes by really fast if you are accidentally singing too fast. So I'm going to count us off pretty slowly here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and da 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 da. Da 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 off. Notice that the slower tempo helps when it comes to the 16th notes in the third measure too. But what happens when you go slower like that is it makes those quarter notes, particularly at the end. Um, 3, 2, 5, 1. You really have to take your time and be patient. Remember, you can take a breath as many times as needed, even if it's in a not musical spot. Okay, I'm ready to record. Oh, should I practice one time all the way through with the piano? Seems like a good idea. This is actually kind of a tricky one here. 1, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7, 1, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 2, 5, 1. So now I'm ready to perform. I'm going to get my phone turned back on, push resume. 1, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7, 1, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 5, 1. Off. And then I push pause. Did you hear I totally sang the wrong numbers? I believe I sang the right pitches. I'd have to listen back to myself. 7, 1, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 2, 5, 1. The moral of the story is even if you mess up your solfege or your scale degree numbers, as long as you sing the right pitches and the right rhythm, that's what you're being graded on. They don't pay attention to your wrong syllables that you might use there. Okay, when I am done recording myself there, I'm going to hit done or stop or whatever, the type of device that you're using is. For my iPhone, because I've practiced ahead of time, I know that this file type is an M4A, which is an acceptable type. Now, how am I going to get it from my phone into my computer? Well, you could save it to your Google Drive or email it to yourself. Or this is one of the reasons why you might think about for the AP Music Theory test, taking the entire test just on your smartphone or on a tablet, so that way I can just now open up the browser where I have my I clicked on my e-ticket on my phone, and the browser shows me my sight singing, right here on my phone screen, which is tricky because it's small. I get it. We got to make the best of this. But then I can just immediately upload it right there. It's already housed on my phone. I don't have to worry about getting the file from somewhere. So whatever method you choose to use, you really just have to make sure that you practice. Just a reminder about the e-ticket. Our test is on Tuesday, May 19th, and they have said that you'll get this by email 2 days beforehand. So for us, that would be on a Sunday. If by the end of the day on Sunday you have not received the e-ticket, then I would recommend that you log into your College Board account, and hopefully it would be there. Or certainly contact your AP Music Theory teacher. Maybe they could help you out. And let's see, we want you to log in 30 minutes beforehand to make sure that you go through all of the security checks on the day. Just a reminder about all of our technical aspects. And I cannot emphasize enough to you guys how important it is to practice the technology piece of this. How are you going to record your sight singing? How are you going to take your pictures and go through that exam demo? So on this cb.org/AP 2020 Get Ready. You can find it in many other spots on the College Board website. They have the exam demo for us to see what it will look like in terms of the file upload. Complete the exam day checklist, confirm your email address, locate your e-ticket, and all of that good stuff. Okay. So I am going to leave you today with a video from Kristin Chenoweth. I'm sure many of you know her from Wicked and her work that she's done on Broadway, but she's also been in films and TV shows. I love Pushing Daisies. That was one of my favorite shows. You should definitely check that out if you never saw Pushing Daisies. And just a special teaser for tomorrow, Dr. Eater and I are going to be sharing a video with you where we will be interviewing Eric Whitaker, who's a choral composer and conductor. He's probably best well known for his virtual choirs. And how important are these virtual choirs right now in our quarantined state of affairs? So I'm going to turn off my video. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and let's enjoy this message from Kristin Chenoweth.
Hi, it's Kristin Chenoweth here, and I just wanted to send a message to all you guys who are classes and all the things you're learning have been put on pause right now, and I just wanted to say that I know that stinks, okay? That really stinks. This world pause that we're taking is really hard, and I wanted to say that I'm sorry that it happened to you guys during this time of when we're learning so much and you're doing such cool work, but you will be back. And while you've got this downtime, spend some time learning other stuff, do other shows, learn a song, learn a dance number you didn't know, learn a monologue. This is a gift from the universe of everybody to take a reflection time and really study and learn and be quiet and listen. 2 ears, one mouth, right? Somebody needs to tell me that. Anyway, I'm sending you my love and my encouragement to all of y'all who are my people, my theater people. Bye.